Okay guys, so we're going to get into the stage breakdown video for the April 24th, 2022 three-gun match at the LCSA Gun Club in Brighton, Michigan. If you want to see just the shooting footage without all the dialogue or diagrams, that video is already posted to the channel, so you can check that out. I do these breakdowns mostly for myself, just so I can go back and make sure I didn't miss anything in real time while I was planning my stages. But also to help the beginner shooter, the person headed to their first match, try and give them a feel for the information they'll be given by the range officers at the start of each stage. And this will hopefully take some of the stress out of going to your first match, because you'll kind of know a little bit more of what to expect and get a feel for the basics of how you might want to approach each course of fire. So before we get into stage one, let's cover a few basic rules that are followed here at LCSA, so at the club here, that you might not encounter at other clubs. First of all, we run a 5-stage match, and 4 of those stages are ran in our smaller pistol bays, which means they consist of a course of fire in multiple bays. So you run one bay, and then you run to a second bay to shoot the second half of the stage. So because you're moving from bay to bay, the club has a rule that you can't take a loaded weapon from one bay to the other, which means once you shoot a gun in one of the bays, you can't use it again in the next bay. So if you shoot your pistol in bay 1, you can't use it in bay 2. The other thing to keep in mind is that the paper targets can be shot with pistol, rifle, or in some cases, shotgun slugs. Well, the steel targets can only be shot with pistol or birdshot with your shotgun. And the only exception to that is in the big rifle range, we can get far enough away from the steel targets to where we can safely shoot them with the rifles. So you will see steel targets that you shoot with rifles in stage 5, which is our rifle range. Okay, let's take a look at stage 1. The rules for this stage from the range officer were that the shooter must shoot pistol in bay 1, and that the targets that were inside the boundaries of the barriers had to be shot through the ports, meaning you couldn't reach around the boundaries to shoot the interior targets. So this made gun selection pretty easy. You had to shoot pistol in bay 1, and then because the targets were paper targets in the second bay, that meant you had to use your rifle there. So next, during stage prep, the first thing I like to do is pick my lines. Where am I going to be standing or moving while I'm shooting specific targets? So just plan my track around the course. And then secondly, I plan where I'm going to reload. So I count my targets, decide whether I need to reload, and then try and figure out where I'm going to reload. And I do typically reload when I'm on the move whenever possible. So due to the no-shoots covering half of the paper targets, you'll see it, 3 of the paper targets are covered by the white no-shoots. That means you had to hit a headshot or a shoulder shot. That was the only available space. Because of that, I decided to attack the top left targets to get a closer shot at them to make that more delicate shot to the shoulder. In my case, a lot of people went with headshots. So I wanted to move forward to get closer there, but I needed to be mindful of not overrunning that far port, so that when I finished the paper targets, all I had to do was step into the port and then hit the steel plates and the Texas Star. And then once I cleared the Star, I could work my way back around towards the dump bucket and go into the second port, hit the paper targets, and then work around the barriers to the final 2 paper targets. So then I ended right at the dump box to drop my pistol and move to bay 2. There was 19 shots needed to neutralize all the targets in that bay. So for the most part, unless you shot it clean, you were going to need a reload. And I chose to reload when I was moving from the far port to the next port. And that worked well because I didn't take a ton of shots on the Texas Star. I had enough for that to work out. So then moving into bay 2, the rifle was staged towards the left side of the shooting box. So it made sense to grab the rifle, step back and move left to right around the bay. The other thing I noticed was from that far back left position that I needed to hit the left-hand targets, I could pivot and shoot the back right targets through the port right from that same spot. So that was my goal there. And then I just had to simply step up into that center port, hit the rest of the targets that were behind the barricade, and then step around to the right to finish up those front right paper targets. 20 shots were all that was necessary here with the rifle, so I didn't have to reload. But you'll see I had a bunch of malfunctions with the rifle. So as you watch me run the stage, you'll see me clear a bunch of jams before I could get through the second bay. But yeah, take a look.
Stand by. Dang it.
All right, next up is stage 2. This stage involves a swinging no-shoot target that was only engaged if you knocked down the red no-shoot popper, and then that arm swung that white no-shoot in front of the plate rack, making those shots on the plate rack harder. The rules from the RO were as follows. Basically, the shooter had to neutralize the small orange plate that was in front of the red no-shoot first before they could proceed with any other targets. You had to use pistol in Bay 1 again, and then you had to also shoot through the ports in Bay 1. And then from there you engaged all the remaining targets as they became available, and the rear 2 paper targets in the second bay were slug optional, meaning you could shoot them with your rifle as part of your rifle part of the stage, or you could have swapped to your shotgun, shot them with slugs, and then finished up the rest of the steel targets with your shotgun. And then you had to engage the spinner at the back of Bay 2 from the center port. So those were the rules for stage 2. As you'll notice, that small orange plate that we had to engage first was directly in front of the red no-shoot that engaged the swinging target. So that meant if you missed that orange plate, you were likely to hit the no-shoot, and then the arm would start swinging the paper target in front of the plate rack. And this would also mean you had hit a red no-shoot target and incur that penalty. It was also possible you could get unlucky and knock your orange target. You could hit it, but knock it directly into the red target, which would also swing the arm. But in that case, you wouldn't incur the no-shoot penalty for hitting the red target with a round. So that was kind of the interesting part about this stage. So again, in this stage, which guns to use were largely decided. You had to use pistol in Bay 1, and then you had to shoot rifle to start Bay 2 because of all the paper targets. And then you had to use the shotgun on the rearward steel plates to finish. Your movements were also largely dictated because you had to start in that left-hand port to shoot the little orange target. So you had to move left to right through Bay 1 and front to back in Bay 2. So again, not a lot of decisions there. You needed 14 pistol shots if you went 1 for 1 in bay 1. So you didn't have to reload unless you had a bunch of misses. And again, in bay 2, no reloads were necessary unless you missed a lot or you took a lot of shots to flip over the spinner.
Hi.
Okay, so now we're on to stage 3. It's another 2-bay stage. The rules for the stage here were that the shooter was to engage all the silhouette body-shaped targets with a pistol and all the octagon targets with a rifle. And then the other rule was that you needed to engage the 5 steel targets down the right with the pistol before you crossed the horizontal orange line. So again, no real options here as far as which guns to use. You started with your pistol and stepped up to the orange line, engaging the right-hand steel targets, and then moved forward to hit the silhouettes in the steel at the far end of the bay. Then you double back, grab the rifle, and moved back forward to hit the octagon targets that you couldn't shoot with your pistol. No reloads were necessary in bay 1, unless, again, you missed a bunch of targets. And then upon entering bay 2, you have your shotgun. There was 12 targets, which meant you did need to at least do a load 4 because you start with 9 rounds in your gun. And then you also had to move from the far left to the far right of the shooting box to be able to get an angle on all of the rearward targets. So really the reload should have happened somewhere during that movement from left to right. You'll see in the video that I screw this up. I was actually able to engage more of the forward steel plates than I thought I was going to be able to from that position. And so I didn't reload in time and I ran my gun dry. So I spent a lot of time moving over to the right-hand side of the box, overcoming that mistake. And then once I got there, I cleaned up the remaining targets. But had I reloaded earlier, I would have probably saved a few seconds, and it would have been a really good, strong stage for me.
Shooter, set the course of fire. Shooter, please stand by.
All right, now to stage 4. This was kind of an interesting setup. So the RO explained here that we were to start with an unloaded pistol resting on the barrels at the center of the start box. We were required to shoot through the no-shoot targets blindly to attempt to hit the yellow popper. You incurred a maximum of 2 no-shoots, regardless of however many attempts you made through the no-shoots to hit the yellow target. Meaning if you hit the yellow target on your first attempt, you only incurred 1 no-shoot penalty. But if it took you 2, 3, 4, 10 shots, the most no-shoot penalties you could get was 2. Failing to neutralize this yellow target was a 30-second penalty. So they were forcing you to shoot through the no-shoots blindly at this target. Everything else in this stage was engaged as the targets became available. So once again, pistol only in Bay 1, and then moving to rifle to clear the paper targets in Bay 2, before stepping into the shoot house, which you'll see in the video, running through the shoot house to clear the rest of the targets with a shotgun. You needed 17 shots to neutralize Bay 1 with your pistol. And with the difficulty of the inline plate rack, most people aren't shooting that clean. That meant you probably needed a reload somewhere in there. And in Bay 2, there was no real need to reload the rifle, but you did have 15 shotgun targets, which meant you need to at least do 2 quad loads. So you needed to load 8 rounds into your gun, most likely, to get through the shotgun portion of the stage. You'll see me in the video. I do my reloading as I move from door to door, and that seems to work out best. So check out another pretty clean run here. I'm a little slow with the rifle, as when I brought that rifle up to my eye, I had a giant drop of sweat right in the middle of the reticle, which is a good reminder to always check your sight picture before the stage starts.
Oh no!
Can feel it.
Okay, and last but not least, the final stage, stage 5. Here we are in the rifle range. Shooters were required to start in the prone position on the makeshift rooftop to engage the 200-yard steel targets and the 3 mini SAMI targets that were at about roughly 50 yards. And then you would step off the roof and hit the left-hand paper targets with your rifle, before moving forward with the shotgun to hit the steel and the clay targets. At that point, the rear steel array could be shot with your pistol or to continue to shoot with your shotgun. And then to finish up, you had the 2 50-yard silhouette targets, which could be engaged with a pistol or shotgun slugs. So gun choices were pretty easy here. You started with your rifle. The middle portion had to be shotgun. And then you had your choice at the back end to shoot with shotgun or pistol. I don't believe anyone chose to shoot slugs at those silhouette targets. It didn't really make sense with the flow of where the dump box was, but it's something you could have done if you're more comfortable shooting shotgun slugs than a 50-yard pistol shot. But all in all, those silhouette targets are pretty big, so it's not that hard of a shot. You'll see I actually go 3 for 3 on them because they didn't call hits on my second shot. There was 18 steel and clay shotgun targets, so you did have to reload while you were moving forward. I chose to carry 12 shotgun rounds on my belt, and basically shoot my shotgun until I ran out, and then switch to my pistol to clean up whatever was left. And this way the front of my belt was left open so I could be more comfortable in the prone position with the rifle. So here's the video of the final stage. Check back in a month or so at the end of May. Our next match is going to be the PDW match, and a lot of people will be running defensive weapons instead of their racing gamers, so it's kind of fun to see. Like, I'll be shooting an 8-inch AR 300 blackout pistol instead of my race rifle, and maybe a defensive pistol instead of my race gun as well. So check back, and we'll see you then.
Drop in the emitter, you just throw it out. Might be worth leaving the cover.
It's hits. They're all, yeah.